Aquarius female for the winter of 2017-18. So December 17, January, February, March of 18, over the new year. So we'll start with the first card for Aquarians. The first card we get here is peace. So I feel like some Aquarians are actually coming into a sense of peace, which is a good a good thing for Aquarians, because I feel like the energy around them has been just swirling and they have not had peace for quite some time. So starting with peace in the corner, we've got to be aware though that this peace came with some kind of accomplishment. So in order to keep it, we have to keep in mind what that is. But the peace nonetheless is here as the base. The next card we get is release. So we have some Aquarians who have released something that was dragging them, holding them back. We have a few other signs here that have gotten rid of stuff that they've needed to get rid of. So I feel like that's directly connected to why it is that we're having a sense of peace here. This thing that we were hanging on to, maybe falsely so, but hanging on to nonetheless, was creating that chaos that we have. So now we've let it go and the peace is starting to settle in. The next card we get is cycles. So that really makes sense, right? Because if we release something, we start a new cycle, and we've ended one to begin another. So we have to keep in mind, and the cycles and the peace are on either side of this. So be aware that you could start another cycle quite soon, but that may take away your peace. So be aware of that. The next card I get is individuation. So that's that being an individual and being sturdy and sound in that. And I think the Aquarius, the females are maybe too adept at doing this, of being that loner and not having a problem with it. So the pieces come by being able to deal with who you are and being at peace with that as well, right? You cannot be alone if you do not like who you are or not comfortable with who you are. So on a certain level, this is something that they've attained to create that peace that they're feeling, right? So if you are not okay with yourself, you do not want to be alone, you do not want to give up the things, you know, you'll have a partner that's not good to you because you just don't want to be alone, right? But if you are secure in your individuality, then you know that you deserve better, so you will let that go. And that feels like the cycle here that's happened. We had to let something go in order to feel the peace. And even though we're not afraid of being alone, I think we were trained, maybe there was something that was training you along the way. Just being connected to someone for a certain amount of time, it just becomes so habitual that you wonder what it's going to be like without them, because you can't remember that time. So you have to kind of let that go. And nonetheless, we have the individualization of the Aquarius female, and very powerful in that because of the release, right? And then we have contentment. Now, it is interesting to me as I go on here. I'm going to show you the connections I'm making, but nonetheless, contentment is the birthing card of the feminine card deck here. We may be coming to a point where you are very fertile. Fertile is a word I just got given. So be aware of that. If you're coming in any cycles, or if you're physically active, be aware that there's contentment here that could be created in the process. Then the outcome card is protection. I feel like, you know, this may have been a bumpy road to create the peace that the Aquarians have been on here, but in order to get there, they knew what they had to do to release, and they finally have done it. And the cycle here, they're seeing that was a cycle, and not only in the release of that, but it created more cycles to come in. I feel like there's a backlog for the Aquarians. There's like stuff that was waiting on this release, and now they're bringing in all of this turmoil so that you can deal with that in order to move forward. We got to jump ahead here. We're behind the 8 ball. I feel like the Aquarians have put off a decision to the last ending point, and I feel like you guys might have come across a Tower card, meaning there could have been a recent situation where things were in upheaval to a point where you had to make a decision, and it had to be none other than the right one. You had to make the right decision at this point. Otherwise, you just couldn't make a wrong decision. So the decision was made, the release was hatched, and now the cycles are coming that were backlogged behind the dam, right? All that dam broke, and now everything's coming in to kind of circulate. So all those cycles are coming at you really quickly. So beware in the beginning, we may be able to bat them off quite quickly, but as time goes on, we're going to have a harder, and this is with the Capricorn females, we're going through this as well, a harder time seeing what it is exactly that we need, where our lessons are. You know, there's some lessons that are very bold and upfront, and oh yeah, I'm never going to do that again because of that. But then we go along and there's, you know, then we can have it sugar coated, and then we have it honey dipped, you know, and then we have it, you know, candy coated, and it just, you know, kind of looks better as you go along, but it's the same thing under wolf's clothing, you know, or whatever, or wolf in sheep's clothing. So we need to be aware that there's some trickery that's going to happen. But I feel like the cycles are backlogged to a degree that they're coming in so fast that it's going to make your head spin. So for the Aquarians, quite a comical situation. But nonetheless, we have the peace and we've released what we needed to, but the cycles are coming. And the individualization, the contentment that we're carrying. And beware, if you're physically active, this is a warning, there's fertile ground here. So if we're not wanting to plant seeds, then let's not invest in that, or take measures to do what you can do there in the ways that you want it. So the protection is the end result. So the protection, I feel, is universal. I feel like the Aquarians have kind of struggled through this, me being insightful myself. Half Aquarian, half Pisces here. I'm right on the cusp. So very aware. I kind of relate more to the Aquarian side. Aware of the protection, yet frustrated by the process. But nonetheless, I think that's the same tone that the atmosphere, the universe has taken with me. They're frustrated with the road I've taken, but nonetheless, it's done. So I feel like that's really where the Aquarian's sitting right now. So be aware, you're on your own here, but not completely alone. And there's a spiritual gift that you've been given, so you need to kind of indulge in that. Now, the 3 clarification cards I got for the tarot to expand on a situation or whatever it needs to expand on. The first card I get is the Queen of Cups. Now, I feel like that is to accentuate the process here for the Aquarians. I feel it could also be a water sign female coming into the picture, because it is really going back. She's looking back into the whole process here of what we had to let go. So there may have been either a female that was very prominent in your decision making, or helped you make those decisions, or made you see those decisions clearly, or just the emotional state that you're in. You're starting to take charge of your emotions, feel them, and make decisions from them. Because Aquarians are air sign after all. I mean, we're holding the water and we're spilling it, but we're made of air. So air is about, you know, intellect and communication and all of that. So we really, it's a bit of a stretch to get into the heart-centered place. It's not a natural center for them. So I feel like there was a bit of a push and shove, right, to get into that place. And it may just be absorbing the feelings of the release that you had, jumping into that in an emotional way so that you don't carry those cycles forward. So the Queen of Cups, I feel it can be split. It can be that person that's there to help and guide you, that is very compassionate, emotional, and intuitive, or it could be you gaining those abilities in that way and finally healing, right? Because that sense of peace has got to come from the healing. You don't get peace if you're not healed. So, and we're always continually healing in different areas, but for this emotional center, I feel that's more the case. We're trying to get a hold of our emotions and take charge of that. The next card I get is the 3 of Cups. So that's like a celebration card. And I'm getting a visual of the universe going, yay, we did it. We got accomplished finally what we needed to get accomplished here. We needed to let go of that energy that she was hanging on to. So that's really, I feel, more of an intuitive sense of celebration, and that's the piece, right? You know you did the right thing, and you know it really came on the last leg of the run here, where we just had to do it, or we were going to break a leg, you know. But there's no other choice at this point. You just had to go in a direction. So the Three of Cups is kind of celebrating that within you, getting a hold of that process and realizing that you did the right thing. You need to celebrate that, and you need to move forward happily and not let it drag you down in any way whatsoever. And the next card I get is the Three of Pentacles. So this is interesting. We have two threes, okay? So there's a sense here of another person being involved in the situation that you released. So if it's a partner, there may have been a partner attached to that other partner. Or if it's a partner, it may be someone you're attached to that you feel better suited to. And then that one had to go. So be aware of that. There's some kind of an emotional situation here with the threes. You don't have two threes and it's not significant. It's going to be significant. Or it could be just the universe is straightening me out here on what's the deal, but it could also be a pair, a male and a female couple, or whatever, a couple with baby, you know, contentment, the birthing process of another human being. So that makes three. Yeah. So there, they clarified that. So be aware of that, because we might have some pregnancies here and a huge celebration. You know, somebody either can get pregnant or didn't think they were going to get pregnant, or but there's a joyful emotion around it. It's very happy, very good. So that's all great. And the Three of Pentacles is, you know, artistic flair as well as joining together to accomplish things. So we could have, you know, you could have a union here that is actually upon the birth, you know, excited and you know, looking to moving forward as well. So in the meantime here, I picked a fortune card and a release card, power of surrender card. So this is something you either have to release or embrace. And then the fortune card is just kind of a bonus. So the power of surrender card I picked for the Aquarian females is surrender to complete healing. Open fully to a loving, compassionate force of the universe that support your physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. So I feel very prominently that the Aquarians are very much supported universally for what they're doing, pushed, you know. They may not be making all the right decisions, but they're being pushed nonetheless by the energies in a huge way. So be aware of that, and be aware of taking the time. And the complete healing comes underneath the Queen of Cups. So emotional. I feel it very specifically. We need emotional healing here, and we're starting to dive into it. We just need to embrace that and surrender completely to the emotional senses. And that's hard when we have an air sign and it's not their element, right? A Pisces might find it easier to surrender to the emotions, but the Aquarian's going to have a little harder time dipping into that. But nonetheless, I feel it can be done, and I feel it has been done to gain some freedom at this point of spirit and also that peace. But we need to go more in that direction to really weed out, you know, everything, weed that whole garden out, you know, only half of it's done, that kind of thing. So the next card I get is the fortune card. And this is where I'm going to make some parallels to the major reading, because the fortune card I get for the Aquarians is birth. Universal energy brings you opportunity and possibility. Now, birth is obviously birth. And I mean, we have two cards here that symbolize the birth of a human being. So we have to be aware of that. And this is very strongly put in the force field here, so as to not overlook it. So if and I feel like, you know, the people that are going to be in this direction are really going to be excited about that. It's not something that's going to be frowned upon or out of how do you say, out of bad timing. It's going to be all good and great and wonderful and accepted. So if it is not a birth, you have to really look at the opportunities and possibilities coming your way, because there's a birthing of something that wants to happen. whether it's, you know, a successful life forward, a successful relationship forward, a successful career forward, or a successful life forward. The life being, you know, a baby. So that kind of thing. There's good energy for birthing projects and things, more birthing babies. But so be aware of that. Be aware of that energy. It is in the air, and there's lots of celebrations to be had. And you've made progress here, and you need to be celebrated for that. So I feel like that, above all others, is really the message that needs to get across here. Is we've done the work we needed to do. From here, we've done it. So let's celebrate that, and then we'll move forward from there. And then everything else is a timing issue. So yeah, for the Aquarians, the females, hopefully that helps you suss things out. Beware, babies are in the air for these Aquarian females. So that is something that will happen. So in the meantime, if you celebrate Christmas, take care over the Christmas season. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.